Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am your host, Mike Luke, joined by the great William Brad Alice. William, who was playing hockey pretty much all day yesterday. Is this true, William?
Well, I had a game at 11, then took the son to the batting cages, and then went back for a 4 o'clock. So basically from 10 o'clock to 6:30, I was in some steamy sporting venue. Yes.
All right, we're going to talk a ton about this with actually Arizona athletics, obviously, Arizona football in-state recruiting. We're going to get to a little bit of international basketball as well, a little bit of conference realignment, basically a smorgasbord of hot issues. But first, Brad, we talked about it a ton last week. Just wanted to sum up again about getting Elijah Rushing, and then we're going to move on to what this means for somebody else. But it's impossible. I have no clue how good he'll be here. He could be, Teddy Bruschi, he could be Lewis Holmes. Who cares? The point is that you were able to get a player that is regarded by many as the number one defensive end in the country, who could go on anywhere he wanted. And when I say could go on anywhere, he could have called up Nick Saban and said, "I want to go to Alabama," and they would take him. So you can't really minimize just how impactful that is there, Brad.
No, and it was important for, 3 or 4 major reasons. One, you keep the best player in Tucson home. He, along with Wilhite Davis or whatever his name is this week, right. You locked up the best two and maybe the only 2 legit players in Tucson. I know there's the other lineman there. I know Woodward. I'm just not sure how good those guys really are. They don't have a lot of offers. So right. I know Arizona has offers. They don't appear to be committable offers.
These are the 2 dudes you wanted.
These were the 2 best players in Tucson.
Right.
So you locked them up. Now you also locked up the highest, or again, with Raiola moving to Georgia, the highest rated player in the state of Arizona. But even then, it's a top 3 player in the state of Arizona, regardless if Dylan Raiola stayed in state. And you locked him up. And that's something Arizona has not done. Arizona has done well in state, but this is the first time under Fisch, and probably the first time since maybe Cam Denson, maybe the tight end Wood, that Arizona's gotten a top 5 type player in state. Because as good as Arizona's done, a lot of those guys are ranked 11th, 15th, 20th.
Right.
And that's not necessarily bad anymore. It used to be if you had the 11th ranked kid in Arizona, it was like, why?
Yeah.
But no, so you lock up the one of, if not the best players in the state. Then we talk about the 5-star impact, and that's third on the list to me. It's huge, but, it's third on the list. And then finally, and maybe most important, position
it's
of
awesome
need.
To have.
And it's a kid you can get in who, if he's ready, and I don't know if he will be, but certainly if he is physically ready, then he could compete for playing time right away, because Arizona does not have a ton there that's proven. Now, maybe after this year, we look back and say, Arizona's loaded at end. Oren Patu has developed, and Davis and Lane are the real deal. But as of now, there's really not a whole lot of proven there. So Rushing has an opportunity to play right away. And so those things are all factors. But I think the in-state, in-city is even more important than the 5-star, not diminishing what the 5-star means. It's huge. But locking up your state and your city is even more important.
All right, let's talk to Mon Williams now. That could be the next little card to drop, the next little shoe to drop right there. And this is a little bit different because, yes, while it is awesome getting Elijah Rushing, you always want to get 5-star kids out of Tucson. That's fantastic. Going in and getting the number 1 QB in the state, though, and a player that is in Phoenix at Basha High School, if Arizona were to get him, again, it's not done yet, but if Arizona were to get him, that would be another real feather in Jedd Fisch's cap right there, because, again, this is a guy that was committed to Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin recruits very well. Lane Kiffin generally knows quarterbacks. And if Arizona were able to get him to decommit and come to the U of A, especially being from Phoenix, you start wondering, is Jedd Fisch starting to get those tentacles into the Phoenix area there, Brad?
And this was really important because Arizona really hasn't been in the hunt for these elite Phoenix quarterbacks.
Right.
They missed out on Purdy, but everyone did.
Right.
But if you look at it, Rattler never sniffed Arizona. Brewer gave him, a brief look before going to Texas, but he was never coming to Arizona. Go down the list. Raiola didn't look at Arizona. There's been a lot of these Phoenix kids. And again, some have been just flat out misses. I mean, who's the kid who went to USC that no one else recruited but USC, and now he's at Pitt?
Slovis.
But for the most part, these big time guys have they've gone down and taken that unofficial visit, but they've never been seriously in the mix for Arizona. You can go all the way back to Rattay. Yes, they ended up getting him and they ended up getting Brewer, but that was on the rebound. So getting a guy like this is important, I think, if they can get him. Is he the perfect quarterback for Fisch's system? I'm not sure. He's a little on the short side. But that is going to be important for, I think, a couple of reasons. One, Fisch has to show that he can utilize these shorter quarterbacks. And again, Delora is not huge. Fafita is obviously an undersized quarterback. But if you can,
you also got big Braden Dorman though in there.
Yeah, but if you can show you can be adaptable in your offense, and that a guy who is, right around the 6 foot mark, a little bit under, can play in your system, and even better yet, get him sniffs at the NFL, you're going to open up a lot of doors for your program. But yeah, I think this could be a big get for Jedd Fisch, because again, if you can just be, it looks like Phoenix is going to produce 3 to 5 high D1 quarterbacks every year, and if you can get one of them when you want them,
right,
that's going to be important.
Well, let's talk about that quarterback room here. And again, we're going to talk a little bit of Arizona basketball as well. We have Brad Allis, who generally is on the cutting edge of things, might have been a little bit ahead of the curve on Mount Krivas right there, who we like seeing what he's doing. We got conference realignment we'll get to. But first, BetMGM. All right. I've been telling you from day one, take the over on back in the A, 4.5 wins. BetMGM right there. But some people didn't. It's now up to 5.5 right now, but I still like Arizona to cover that. But if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live. But for our Arizona audience, place your first offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if it loses with BetMGM. That's how cool it is. Again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for details. Let's hear Shane Diefenbach with the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
All right, the great question just came in here. Did we find Dylan Anderson's bike? To my knowledge, we have not found Dylan Anderson's bike. We will get to that though, because that is a part that we're going to be talking about. But this quarterback room, Brad, I like the quarterback room right now. Let's just say the JDL's gone. I'd say then you look at it and you got Noah Fafita again, 5'8", I get it. But then you got Braden Dorman, 4-star kid. You got DeMond Williams, 4-star kid. There's a lot worse quarterback rooms, unproven quarterback rooms out there, especially in the conference there, Brad.
Yeah, on paper, it's a really good quarterback room, but we mentioned this, I think, on the last podcast I was on. There's been a host of 4-star quarterbacks to come to Arizona and do nothing.
Right.
And I see people like, oh, well, they're recruiting these short guys. Yeah, well, the tall guys didn't amount to much either.
I don't care if a dude's 5'10" in college. That doesn't mean anything to me.
It means a lot more in the pros. And even in the pros, we're starting to see shorter guys excel. But yeah, so again, do you want 5'8"? No, Noah Fafita's really on the short side. He's still taller than me. But yes, but if you're in that 5'10" to 6'1" range, you'll be fine in college. Or if not, then your problems are probably not related to your height. But on paper, yeah, it's a very good, quarterback room. When you can add basically 2 4-stars and a 3.5-star, I'll take that. But again, we have to see how they perform. And again, we've seen glimpses from Fafita that look good. I know Dorman's very well regarded. Obviously, DeMond Williams is very, very well regarded. I think with his decommitment, he is the highest rated quarterback still available in the class. So, if that's Arizona's lot, great. I'll take that in a heartbeat. No offense, but it beats a Gunnar Cruz,
Will Plummer,
the kid from Central Florida. Yeah.
Right. All right. Now we're going to switch over to a little bit of Arizona basketball here and then talk a little bit of realignment. But Brad, I am of the belief that Arizona football and Arizona basketball are on the steadiest footing that it's been since the mid-90s to late 90s right now. Because keep in mind, in the mid to late 90s, Arizona basketball was in the top 5 to 10 in the country. Arizona football had 2 years where you finished in the top 10 in 6 years. You look at it now with Arizona basketball, Tommy Lloyd's got this thing at a top 10 program, and it feels sustainable as well. And what Jedd Fisch is doing doesn't feel like Rich Rod, where you were going to have some nice seasons and then kind of the flash in the pan 12 or 10-win season. He's recruiting year in and year out, getting the kind of players he needs to be sustainable. I think right now, this is the healthiest the football and the basketball program has been since the mid to late 90s.
Yeah, I think that's obviously you had I think that 1 year where Rich Rod was really good and Miller was really good, but for the most part, if you look at the best of the Stoops era was during the decline of the Lute era.
Right.
So mid 90s, late 90s is probably that 98 year is basically right as soon as I left college, things got really good. 97, right. 98. But yeah, so I think it's and again, I don't want to put too much pressure on either guy yet. But they are building things the right way, and is Jedd Fisch going to be a consistent 9, 10, 12 game winner at Arizona? I don't think so. But if he can win between 7 and 8 every year and then have that spike season every few years, I'll take it. That's what Arizona is now. Can you transform the program? Sure, but it's going to be really, really hard. Right. Conversely, Tommy Lloyd has his niche. He's figured it out. His roster construction. I think we're going to see college basketball settle down in terms of the transfers and the NIL. I think, once these COVID seniors move on this year, things are going to stabilize a little, but you're always going to need to hit the portal, which right. He's done well. You're always, he's got his international recruiting on lock. And when he starts getting some of these domestic players, if he can start sending them to the league, Carter Bryant and Jabari Phillips and all these guys, then that's going to even open up domestic recruiting even more. Right. And if not, then he's got this pipeline internationally. I mean, it works, and he's not dependent on an international. UCLA had a very good international run here the last couple of years, but that assistant's gone. Can they keep it up? I don't know. Even if they lose Jack Murphy, and that would be a blow to their recruiting, they would still have Tommy Lloyd with his connections. I will say this. Murph is not going to make a lateral move.
Right.
And I don't think he's going to take a bad head coaching job just to be a head coach.
I don't think he's going to take Weber State just to take Weber State.
No, he's either going to have to put himself in position to get a Utah State, a New Mexico State, or I think he's staying and would be content. He does. Right. NAU was a dead-end job. He won or finished second in that one tournament and was still on thin ice the next year.
That's a very difficult place to win. Brad, but it's about time to give Brad Allis a little bit of credit here. Brad Allis always deserves credit. By the way, Tap and Bottle. I was at Tap and Bottle this last Saturday. They are having a Tap and Bottle celebration at Tap and Bottle North this Saturday. William, you should go up there. It's in your neck of the woods. I will be up there.
Not too far.
What's that?
Not too far.
All right, maybe you'll see William. William will be signing autographs. I will be there taking pictures, obviously. But on a serious note, it'd be fun to see you guys all up there. Tap and Bottle, again, support Scott and Rebecca. Back the A the way that it needs to be backed. All right, Mount Krivas, Montijus Krivas. Brad, when the rumors started flying out here that he was going to be that Arizona was going to get him along with Paulius Morauskas, you said at the time that you liked Krivas better, and a lot of people thought Morauskas looked better. Krivas right now is dominating at the FIBA U19 games. You watch him, he's every bit of 7'2". He is a massive, massive individual, and somebody that my guy Dylan Anderson, Henry Vasar, they better be ready to rock and roll this come practice, because once this kid hits the States, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with there, William.
Yeah, and I think Poly M has maybe a higher ceiling, maybe a little more versatility. But what I see in Krivas is I see a guy who's like, again, a legit 7'1", 7'2", who is not a beanpole, although oddly enough, maybe it's camera angles. He does look thinner on the FIBA broadcast than he did on that highlight from what appeared to be a television studio in Lithuania with like 8 people in the crowd. But, he's not a beanpole. He's lean, but he's not a beanpole. He's got some muscles on him. He appears to have a soft touch around the rim. He's a shot blocker. To me, when it comes to he and Poly M and really most of the guys who aren't Umar Ballo and Kashad Johnson, it's going to kind of come down to how are you acclimating to America and I know Vesar's been here a year. How are you acclimating to the American game? How are you acclimating to, the food in America?
Right.
I mean, obviously,
just the whole immersion process.
Looking at Instagram, looks like Henry Vesar has done quite well with his immersion into the Arizona women's softball team. Again, Vesar has done some decent things in this tournament. But Krivas,
there's a lot of big men. We have a lot of options here for as far as the peaks. Again, the fact that we might have to add numbers to the peaks leads me to believe that there's going to be some good options. Besides, you already got two proven commodities in Umar Ballo, leader of men, and Kashad Johnson. After that, there's definitely some playing time to be had there, Brad.
Yeah, and obviously you've got, and it sounds like someone's saying Henry is hurt. I didn't hear that, but if that is true, then that's a reason Krivas' numbers are better. But essentially, you've got 6 decent options for 2 post spots. I mean, if your fallback guys are Dylan Anderson and one of the Lithuanians, then you're in pretty good shape. And I'm not even counting Philly B, who I'm counting as a wing, and he did some good things.
Did you hear? By the way, we got to talk about Dylan Anderson and his bike. Did you see this?
I saw that someone swiped the bike.
A scumbag, slime of the earth person. And no, it wasn't me that stole his bike. I've had a bunch of people ask me that on Twitter. No, I wouldn't steal Dylan Anderson's bike. But Dylan Anderson.
You put a tracking device on it. But
I did. I might have put a tracking device on it, but I would not have stolen it, because if I steal it, how can I track Dylan Anderson then? But you got to look at it that way. But Dylan Anderson's bike has been stolen. We need to get this bike back. So anybody that knows, we look at it on Twitter. Dylan put it out there as well. Frank Caliendo is on the way. By the way, Frank Caliendo retweeted me about Dylan Anderson's bike.
Do we know did Caliendo coach him as a young guy, or did their kids play together? Because
he has known Dylan since he was 4 years old. So he's very good friends with Dylan's father. He was Dylan's flag football coach.
Okay.
For 3 years. So they've known each other for a very long time. He's very close with the family. Good advocate to have in your corner in Frank Caliendo.
Not bad, because then you've also got Madden and Romo and Barkley.
You got everybody in your corner. But we got to get the bike back. Anybody out there that knows, contact Jacob Franklin on Twitter. I'm just kidding. But we need to get the bike back.
Let's get him a better lock and do it as an NIL deal.
Well, I was going to say his NIL
lock up your bike like Dylan Anderson locks up Biggs.
Yeah, seriously. That's actually not a bad idea right there. But going back to the U of A Bigs, though, you got to, like I said, you got a ton of options right now. You got Ballo, you got Johnson, you got Krivas, you got Dylan Anderson, you've got Henry Vesar. They should be. I'm hopeful that they'll be able to find a little bit more depth than they were able to demonstrate this past year.
Yeah, I mean, if this group isn't going 8, even 9 deep, something's wrong.
Right.
It should be. We should be sitting there going, "Wow, that guy can't find the floor. How deep are they? Not why are they only going 6 deep?"
Right.
I mean, we should be looking at it, and there should be a quality big man, whether it's Anderson, whether it's Krivas, whether it's Vesar, who's not seeing the floor.
Right.
Philly B showed me maybe enough in that tournament to go, oh, yeah, that guy would be in the rotation on a lot of teams. Probably won't be at Arizona this year.
Philly B starts at – does Philly B start at ASU, or is he getting 20 minutes, though?
No, but he's playing.
Right.
There's some conferences where he's on, fighting for all conference. America's Son and some of those. Yeah. So that just shows you the depth of Arizona. I think the one thing we have to find at Arizona is stars.
Right.
Is Caleb Love a star in this system? Is Umar Ballo making another leap, or did he maximize? And if so, he's still an all-conference player. Can one of the young guards become a star? Because Arizona's deep, Arizona's balanced. Right. Do they have that star power that you need in March?
Do we worry about?
Maybe they didn't have last year.
Kylan Boswell did not look very good in the U19 games. What are you worried about that? I'm not really worried about it. I was hoping he would look better, but I also think, though, that Tommy Lloyd, I think, knows how to get the best out of Kylan Boswell. The one thing, though, that I don't necessarily think, though, with Boswell, I've never felt, and I could be wrong, I've never felt he was a great NBA prospect. I think he's going to play in the NBA. But, we've watched point guards come in here that you look and you're like, they're going to be a really good NBA player. We've seen a lot of those dudes. I don't necessarily see that with Kylan Boswell.
No, he looks like he's just not built like an NBA player.
Right.
I'll be honest. It's like looking at Jaden DeLar and Noah Fafita and saying, oh, those guys can be really good college quarterbacks. I don't know if either guy can play in the NFL at 5'8" and 5'11".
Right.
When Patrick Mahomes at 6'2" or 6'3" is one of your shorter, good, NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah.
For all of Kyler Murray's flash, he hasn't done much. So
Brad, you were right about Kyler Murray. Pat yourself on the back.
I said he'd be okay. I didn't think he'd be great. He can still prove me wrong. But that's the point. Colin Boswell looks like he has the potential to be a very good college player and maybe not an NBA player. And, it could be something where he has the better college career than Jaden Bradley, and Jaden Bradley plays in the league. Something like that. Now, I will say this about Boswell. He was pretty good at the beginning of that tournament.
He was.
So part of me, that to me is much more important because those tournaments are a grind. Again, did he get nicked up? Was he tired? Did he just get sick of looking at Tad Boyle's face all day? If he had struggled early and then had a couple good games in the middle, I'd be more concerned. Would you have loved him to be a superstar for all 6 games? Absolutely. But I do like the fact that he was pretty good early on and then declined as the tournament went on.
Yeah, and I also think, too, that and that's where I think it's more of an NBA issue, I think, because in the NBA, you got to be able to break people down. You got to be able to shoot off the dribble, all that stuff. I think with Tommy Lloyd here, I think he's going to be just fine, though. I don't really worry about it, but I do think that he's a little bit limited as an NBA player, but I have no problem with that because that means more time here at the U of A. We should all embrace that right there with Kylan Boswell. Now, at some of these other spots then, as the season gets closer, I do believe that as the season gets closer, I expect Caleb Love to be the best player on this team. I know that that's a projection. I know that he needs to be more efficient, but I do think that Caleb Love's going to be the best player on this team. I said it right there, Brad Ellis.
I think Caleb Love will lead the team in scoring.
Well, you're not prepared to go that far, though.
Will he be the best player? I don't know, because if Umar Ballo's pumping in 14-8, 3 blocks,
3 blocks.
Whatever.
I like it.
If he's doing
that. It's Lauren Woods out there, 14-8 and 3.
Then he's probably the best player. 14-8 and a half a block is probably the best play. If Kylan Boswell's averaging 11 with 6 dimes, then he might be a better all-around player. But if Caleb Love is sitting there scoring 18 and getting you key buckets down the stretch, I'll take it because I think he will. I think he's built to be the leading scorer of this basketball team.
I would agree with that.
He's a proven guy. He's already averaged 17. He's been to a Final Four. He's hit big shots. Again, is he the greatest defender? No, he's a willing defender. Is he going to get a lot of guys involved? Hopefully more than he did at North Carolina. But at the end of the day, I think some other guys have the potential to be the more versatile all-around player. But Caleb Love kind of becomes the Tubelis of this team, leading him in scoring.
I think that's fair.
But more capable of getting you big buckets when you need them. And some of that's a knock on Tubelis. And some is just, it's a lot harder to do it at the 4 than it is at the 2 or the 3.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair. All right. Now let's talk a little bit. We're going to circle back right here, but let's talk a little bit of conference realignment. But first, need to talk a little bit, though. We got to pay the bills. First, by the way, Wednesday, Matt Muehlbach coming on. He just confirmed. Good stuff right there. Brad, when did you go to Circle K last? Be honest with us.
I went twice yesterday.
Dude, that again.
Once before each hockey game, I had to get an energy drink, get a water, and get something to eat. So yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that. Embrace that. All right, now make sure you're not. Which Circle K did you go to, by the way?
Withrow from La Choya.
Well, duh. All right, so you didn't go to Grant and Oracle.
No. Even though that's not too far away from the rink. No, I get everything on the way out of the neighborhood.
All right, that's what Brad.
I basically live in the parking lot of Sporting Chance. You should know that by now.
And there's a Circle K right there.
That's it. That's my
Make sure you're not missing out on all the great stuff at Circle K right now. Text PHNX to 31310 to join their SMS subscriber club and get a buy one get one free offer on a 32-ounce Polar Pop. Head to CircleK.com/store locator to find a Circle K near you. Derek Pivko puts it best. Circle K is the best right there, and I think that we can all agree on Circle K being the best option out there for everything. And one other thing before we move on, Voco. All right. You might say, how can I look cool? How can I look like somebody from the Desert Swarm era like Brandon Sanders? Brandon Sanders came on here with Foco, with some outfits that he got from Foco right there. It's all kinds of good stuff. And again, they have your back for Arizona sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by visiting www.foco.com and use code word PHNX for all the non-presale items. Use the promo code PHNX for 10% off. And no, I did not steal Dylan Anderson's bike. All right, Brad, we're now.
I don't want to say I go to Circle K a lot, just go to circle back to Circle K. But one of the guys working there whose kids go to school with my kids was so fully vested in the All-Star tournament because I was in there every day buying stuff for it. So
I like that. Brad, realignment right here. There's been a lot of false starts, a lot of questionable reporting. We're coming up on 2 weeks from about 2 weeks from Media Day right now. And even people like John Wilner, who we like on this show, has said that if there isn't a deal kind of in place by then, I would start to get very, very nervous if I was the Pac-12, because you're going to start getting schools that are going to start looking the other way. And John Wilner has been a massive proponent, obviously, of keeping the Pac-12 together. Sooner or later, Brad, there's got to be a move. It can't just be another unity statement. There's got to be something of substance out there. Where I'm confused on this entire thing, though, is I don't know what network is going to be picking this up. Not only do I not know what network's going to be picking this up, where the money is coming from. That's something that I don't think anybody really has an idea on.
no, and I think that's the confusion out there. And while I think a streaming heavy deal is not a bad thing as other people do.
Right.
You still need a network TV component, whether that's ESPN, Fox, even CBS Sports. I mean, if you can get a couple games on the real CBS and not the CBS Sports, whatever network, you need that. And it doesn't have, again, I think if the bulk of yours is on streaming, it's not as big a deal as even it was 2-3 years ago, because that's where kids are.
Right.
My kids don't flip on DirecTV and surf looking for something.
Brad, you need to change that. They're
on YouTube. They're on, my daughter and I were watching Netflix this morning. That's where kids are. In fact, if you can get onto, reels on YouTube or YouTube Shorts and TikTok, more kids' eyes are on that. Now, I don't know about your average elite basketball or football recruit and their families. Obviously, you need to be able to say, hey, yes, we have a game on ABC, or we have a game on CBS, we have a game on Fox. I don't want to see a game on the CW.
Right. Is that a non-starter for you?
Unless you're getting paid.
Right.
But if you tell me 75% of our content is going to be on Apple TV, I don't think that's bad. I mean, it can't be one of these weird little It has to be Apple. It has to be Hulu. It has to be Prime. It can't be, Tubi. It can't be, one of Roku. It can't be one of those.
When was the last time, though, outside of the Pac-12 tournament, that the Pac-12 has been on the cutting edge of something, that they've gone a different route than everybody else, and it's actually worked out?
Quarterback play in the 70s.
That's what I'm saying, though. I don't know why anybody would have faith in these people, though, at this point, though. That's, I guess, where I'm looking at. Plus, you got people like Michael Crow, no offense, Jacob Franklin, but who I think are tolerant of sports at best. And that's the best way I can put it. When Bobby Hurley is asking for upgrades in the arenas and whatnot, and Michael Crow basically says, no, it looks good right there. You guys are good to go. That, to me, is an indictment on where Michael Crow, at least his priorities are when it comes to sports.
No, and I think that's Cal doesn't care much about sports.
Right.
Stanford likes that they send a lot of people to the Olympics, but I don't know if they care. Cool. So yeah, at some point, Washington State and Oregon State are what they are. So I think those are valid. I think obviously we have a different group in charge now. Most of the presidents have turned over in the last few years. Most of the athletic directors. Obviously, you go from Scott to George.
Larry Scott, right?
Again, Scott tried to be innovative. Games in China. Yeah.
Half your team gets arrested in China.
yeah, I mean, it was foolish. It was stupid. No offense, but I don't care. I don't care if we're opening up doors in Japan when I can't watch the games at the team hotel in Las Vegas. So yeah. So again, but do I have? I don't have faith in them. I also don't have like an over-ending sense of doom because this is a different group. That being said, if you don't think Oregon and Washington and Arizona and probably Colorado don't have their eyes on greener pastures in case, you're foolish. I know a lot of people have twisted words out there. Arizona would love to stay in the Pac-12 if it's economically viable,
no doubt,
and they could have a seat of power. But they would go to the Big 12, or heck, if the Big 10 somehow decided, hey, you know what, we like that they're a research school, and they would go in a heartbeat. But yes, the Pac-12. So, I say they've never had formal meetings with the Big 12. But if you think they haven't been on the phone with the Big 12, you're foolish.
Right.
They probably have been on the phone with the ACC. They've probably been on the phone with the Mountain West just in case. You'd be foolish not to have conversations with anyone who calls. That being said, yes, I think the most likely destinations for Arizona is staying in the Pac-12. Second most likely destination is the Big 12.
See, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Everybody would like to stay in the conference if the money and the TV deal is right. But I think with so many U of A fans being so scarred about the Pac-12 experience, especially with Larry Scott, having presidents in here, not our guy Bobby Robbins, he likes sports, but having presidents who don't really care about sports, the reason that Arizona fan is so uneasy about all of this is because we've seen things like this backfire before. So when the Pac-12 commissioner says, don't worry, I got this, you got to understand that Arizona fans are rightfully going to be a little nervous about that.
You also have to see, where Arizona fans are coming from. Arizona fans are coming from not being able to play New Year's Day games because Tom Hansen didn't want to compete with the Rose Bowl.
Right.
Arizona fans are, again, one of the most loyal fan bases on the West Coast. And if you wanted to keep your DirecTV, you couldn't watch games.
Right.
You've seen Refgate. You've seen UCLA and USC bully the Pac-12 for 4 decades. Right. You've been on the short end of the stick several times, scheduling, things like that. So I get it. And frankly, without USC and UCLA, you're not clamoring for those Washington State and Oregon State and frankly Utah basketball games. Whereas right now, that road trip to Oklahoma State, it's cool, it's shiny, it's new. In 5 years, you might be like, TCU again? But right now, it's cool, it's new, it's fresh.
But different. I'm not traveling. You're not traveling. 99% of these people aren't traveling. Who cares about that?
No, but, again, the same way we think of Washington State basketball, we may think of TCU basketball and Jamie Dixon leads. But right now, it's cool and new and different because we haven't seen a lot of these matchups.
Do you think
the best option would be a financially viable Pac-12. You add a school or two, and you go with it. I just don't know if that's going to be feasible.
Do you think the average? I think a lot of times with this argument when I've had Altimore on, I think a lot of times people are talking past each other. And what I mean by this is, yes, there is no doubt that the Pac-12 has better academic institutions. It's not even close between the Pac-12 and the Big 12. But the majority of Arizona athletics fans, i.e. Arizona athletics fans, are more interested in what is best for Arizona athletics. And when you have a Pac-12 conference that doesn't have UCLA and USC playing basketball, it starts to look very, very quickly like the Mountain West or the WAC. That's not what Arizona fans want to see.
And this is an honest question because I don't know, but do people pay attention to your athletic conference for academics?
Do you think you graduated from the U? Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You graduated from the U of A. I graduated from the U of A. We both backed the A. Do you think if Arizona were to go to the Big 12, is an Arizona degree that greatly diminished by being in the Big 12?
I've never had anyone go, we're looking for Stanford grads, but you guys beat them in the 98 football season.
Right.
So you're
good. I don't get it, man.
No, I don't either. And again, you've already, no offense, you've already watered it down with Utah. Colorado's a very good advocate. Utah is, I believe, 11th in academics in the Pac-12.
Right.
I think only Oregon State's worse, and Washington State's right there, but they have a very good vet in school. If you bring in San Diego State, that diminishes your academics. They're not a research school. I don't know SMU. Boise State's not a great school.
There really aren't.
UNLV is actually probably the best school academically they're looking at, which is funny because people make fun of UNLV, but they have one of the finest hotel schools in the nation. They have one of the finest entrepreneur schools in the nation, things like that. But yeah, I don't see. You're telling me if you can make $20 million more on your contract in the Big 12, they're worried about the academics? I just don't see it.
And we got to be honest here. We are a basketball town. I know that football pays the bills. I get all of that. But if the Big 12 were to add UConn along with already what they have, you got Kansas, which is obviously one of the 3 or 4 best programs in the entire country. I can keep going on and on down the list. That becomes the best basketball conference in the country, Brad.
You do see what is it Yormark trying to do?
He wants to get the best basketball conference. I get it.
Because I think he sees that as these networks are clamoring for live broadcasts, that suddenly basketball becomes more important.
Mm-hmm.
Because I keep seeing the detractors. People, doesn't he realize football pays? Yes, he realizes football pays the bills. But I think he's banking on basketball also paying some bills. It's not, I mean, obviously the NCAA tournament makes a ton of money. But these streaming services need live to get the eyeballs on it.
Right.
The networks need live. Again, I've mentioned this before. There's a reason people keep investing in wrestling right now.
It's not just because Brad Allis likes wrestling.
If you don't know, Time Warner just added 2 more hours of pro wrestling on, I think it's Time Warner, TBS. They added 2 more on Saturday nights. So that's 5 hours of wrestling. WWE is at 5 hours of their programming. Plus, they have like a minor league show, which is on Tuesday night on USA. Why? Because it's live programming that people want, advertisers want. Because there is we can all watch The Mandalorian whenever we want. Do we want to avoid spoilers? Sure. But people like live tweeting about live events or whatever it's going to be next week.
Let's talk about SMU right
here.
I keep hearing that SMU is this sleeping giant right here. I don't see it. But first, speaking of giants, the intellectual giant that is Brad Allis sometimes has a hard time sleeping. That's where OGs comes into play right there. This was a heck of a segue right there, Brad. Flavoring life is what OGs is all about, and they make it so easy with their wide range of flavors and functions. No matter what you need, OGs has it, and a gummy for it. Check out OGs online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can find their products at your local dispensaries. Must be 21 years or older to enjoy the purchase. SMU. I keep hearing people say there's a lot of money there. This is a sleeping giant. I don't buy it. If SMU can't be good in a mid-conference or at least notable, what makes you believe that if they were to go to the Pac-12, they would be good?
I would say this. I think if the Pac-12 can get their media deal and get a legit big boy media deal, that SMU
sounded like Kevin Woodman right there.
That SMU, San Diego State, or UNLV could benefit from major, because I think that's part of the problem with SMU. SMU used to be a big boy, and then they weren't.
But wasn't that more of a flash in the pan? They've never really been good at basketball. I know they had
no, but they were when they were in the old Southwest Conference, they were a big deal in football. But the point being, now that you're, let's use a great example. If ASU goes to the Mountain West, no one's going to care about ASU in Phoenix anymore. They're already fighting for eyeballs, right?
Right.
At SMU, you're not only battling with the Stars, the Mavericks, the Rangers, the Cowboys, but you're fighting with Texas A&M, Texas Tech.
Right.
TCU's in town. North Texas is in town. But TCU benefited from joining the Big 12. They did.
Right.
Obviously, they had carved out a niche and started winning football games before, but they solidified. SMU used to be a bigger deal than TCU, even when both were in the Southwest Conference. So if you get them in a major conference, it's going to help. How much, I don't know, because at the end of the day, I don't know how much Dallas cares about SMU. But my guess is if suddenly Arizona basketball is coming to town, and Oregon football and Washington football and Colorado with Dion, people might care a lot more. And there is some money there because it is the best school in that area. I'll give, and again, the Brad Allis drinking game. You know who are graduates of SMU?
Who?
Everyone affiliated with the Kansas City Chiefs ownership, the Hunt family. The son played soccer there. I think the daughter played soccer there. Lamar Hunt, who's the deceased owner, I believe he went there. He tried to get football in Dallas, and the NFL told him no, so he created the AFL. The current owner, Clark Hunt, went there. So there's oil money. Then that's oil money. The Hunt family's oil money. Oil money. There is some oil money at SMU. Is it enough? We saw them hire Larry Brown, and they were a big deal in basketball for about an hour and a half.
Right. I've just never, I guess in my lifetime,
and again, I'm older than you. I remember the Pony Express. I remember, I remember when SMU came here after Dickerson left and Arizona beat him, and it was a big deal. Do I think they're getting to those heights again? No. But do I think if you put them in a major conference, it's going to help? Yes. I think if you put San Diego State in a major conference, especially with the void now of USC and UCLA, it's going to help San Diego State, which has already bolstered their athletic program over the last 20 years. Do I think UNLV could get a shot in the arm? Because again, being in the, and I don't even know if UNLV is being considered, but in the Pac-12 instead of the Mountain West, yes, I do.
UNLV intrigues me more honestly than SMU, to be honest, because I've always believed, and maybe I'm just stupid, probably am, but I do believe that UNLV, I've always felt that UNLV, if you got the right coach in there, I'm not saying you're going to go back to the Tark days, but UNLV should have hired Brad. There was a no-brainer hire that they should have hired, and he would have them in the Final Four within 2 years.
Patino?
Yes. Rick Pitino.
They burned that bridge originally when they got their wife's name wrong.
That's true. That's a good
point. No, you get the right guy there, and you win. Yeah, and what you have now is you have this whole middle class there that probably wasn't there 30 years ago that is going to much more enjoy going to a college basketball game than, which is just off the strip. I get it. Then onto the strip to watch, the Knights or the Raiders or, so yeah, I think they could, but again, I don't even know if they're under consideration, but right. San Diego State will absolutely benefit being in a major conference. And again, if I'm San Diego State, I'd be having conversations with the Pac-12 and the Big 12 if the Big 12 wants me. Right. Again, if I'm SMU, I'm clamoring to get into a big conference. Obviously they'd be better off in the Big 12, but that's not going to happen because TCU doesn't want the competition. But yeah, so I don't think I think of the people on the table and again, they're really not the Dallas market, but the Dallas market from academics, SMU looks better to me than Boise does, than Fresno does, but they're not a no-brainer either.
All right, but one thing that is a no-brainer is Four Peaks, the official brew of PHNX Sports. You should check it out. Again, Four Peaks, here's the deal. Check out Four Peaks Brew or Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. You must be 21 years or older to drink Four Peaks. Please drink responsibly. Four Peaks is absolutely fantastic. Again, the official brew of PHNX Sports. T-Burn, I think it's a good point. I think it's a good comparison right there. I think it'd probably be kind of a Washington State, Oregon State type situation right there. All right. We're going to sign off right here. Appreciate all the comments. I did not steal Dylan Anderson's bike. This is a terrible lie that is being spread. But Brad, where can they find you, and can they hear from you this week?
Yeah, I should have a few things up this week. I have recorded a few things, got to edit them. Best place to find me while Twitter is still around is WSR Brad. I did create a Threads account, haven't used it yet. I'm also on Facebook. Plus, you can find me here most Tuesdays, although today I get it Monday. But yeah, so yeah, I'll be around.
All right. For Brad Allis, I am Mike Luke. Appreciate all of the comments. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Jacob Franklin, welcome back to Arizona from Nebraska. Always good to have Jacob back. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.